Hello everyone, this is Mister,
This is Noah.
and this is episode 6, The Concrete Clappers. We talk about all things, period. I haven't told Noah about the topic we're talking about today, but today we are talking about desire and the need to be someone you were not. So, I realized just barely I hadn't told him the topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know what the fuck we're doing today, but I'm in for the ride.
But I did want to talk about, in recent episodes, we start and the topic is video game related, media related, and then we got in these hefty talks right afterwards. So this episode I'm just trying to see if we can jump right into that sort of mood or theme.
Get into the meat of it real quick.
Yeah, get into the see how quickly we can get into the meat. But yeah, so I'm thinking in terms of wanting to be someone else, mainly wanting to be someone other than yourself, and it's something I've been really curious about recently, being around so many different people and people I haven't known for very long. So it's a super interesting topic to me. I don't know how interesting it is to you, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how much I've really thought about this before. I'm generally kind of the opinion that I'm really I'm stuck in my own skin, so I'm like trying not to think about other people and what they're doing like too often, just because sometimes it throws me a bit off track. But I definitely know what you mean about wanting to be someone else or do what somebody else is doing. That kind of, it's like almost FOMO, but like on a more existential level.
Yeah. I'll start by asking this: if you could be anyone other than yourself, who'd you be?
Fuck.
I should have actually. This is irresponsible of me. I should have asked him to think about it beforehand. But
I feel like my immediate answer goes to like a celebrity or some shit, just because like they're already successful. People know who they are. They have money. They have power, influence, like all the things that I see myself wanting later in life. It's kind of like already achieved. But if it had to be like a peer or something, then I have genuinely no fucking clue.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no like. Are there people you want to have attributes like?
Absolutely. There's people who embody things that I want to kind of like have show through my personality, and kind of viewing that definitely helps me like get a more firm grasp of it, so that I can like employ it in my own life. But seeing other, like, for example, Hallie, one of our good mutual friends, it's actually Oliver's roommate's girlfriend. She is one of the genuinely most kind people that I've ever met. And every time I see her and hang out with her and spend a bit of time with her, it just makes me want to be like, or it just kind of makes me take a step back and think, man, I should have a bit more of this in my life. I'm not embodying it as much as I should.
Yeah. So you just, instead of looking at people in like, I want to be them, you pick attributes?
It's definitely a pick and choose kind of thing.
Just kind of like nippy. Well, I guess that's a great mindset to have.
It's kind of weird. I've always been a bit more of a pick and choose kind of person. Like, I know people who will sit down and like only listen, like they'll listen to an album like start to finish.
Yeah.
I can't fucking stand that. I feel like in every album that I've ever listened to, regardless of the artist, there's at least one song where I'm like, man, this is kind of shit, and so I have to pull out my phone again and skip it. When, I could just grab here and here and here and then kind of formulate my own.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I agree with you on that. I can't listen to albums either, but there's a lot of times, especially in this podcast, where I ask you about how you feel about things and how you go about your ways, and your answer is always so much better than what I could have thought you were going to say. And this is one of those situations where
I appreciate that.
I assumed you were going to say like, oh man, I wish I was Rocky Rickoso. But instead
dude,
you're like,
I wish I was Spike from Cowboy Bebop. I wish
I wish I was Spider-Man. But you, that's good. I puts a blunt in, not a real blunt. I puts an end kind of a blunt end to how I thought this was gonna go. Cause
Well, how do you go about looking at what other people are doing and incorporating it into your own life? Because there's definitely like some nuance there of not just like kind of monkey see monkey do, like copy pasting somebody else's actions.
Yeah.
So how do you employ that?
Sorry, I'm confused.
How do you go about implementing what other people do? Like, how do you go about using these things that you like that you see in other people?
Well, I guess I do it in the same way that you do it. I guess I just don't think about it as much. Do you think about it a lot?
Yeah.
Are you looking at other people and being like, I like how they're doing that, and I want to implement that?
Yeah, and what I meant there by nuance is like, there's certain things that I pick up on, like, oh, this habit that they have, it always like brings up this vibe. Like, I'm not trying to copy the habit, I'm trying to copy the vibe or the emotion that it brings.
Okay, and most of the time when you copy habit or not, when you copy things, do you do it for yourself, as in like, this seems like a good healthy thing for me to have, or do you do it for your appearance to others?
A little bit of both, but I think maybe a little bit more for how others see me, which is a bit weird because like I'm not trying to improve myself for other people, obviously, but it's definitely a big part of the reason why I focus so much on it. Like, how I'm viewed by other people. I want to be well respected, and I want to be seen in a good light. And so being able to pick and choose things that make other people seem that way, and like have these characteristics that are like kindly looked upon, I'm like, how do I get that for myself? And then I start going about building habits which kind of reflect the vibe that's given off by these other people.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. That's crazy.
People are weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange to think about. Like, I was thinking about this a while ago. There's no, like, as much as you might want to have done what you've done so far by yourself and to have that merit, like, to your name alone, like, there's so many other people that have had, like, a profound influence on your life, even without, like, you realizing it. Like, anything from your parents to your childhood best friend that you don't talk to anymore to whatever.
And we do the copy thing subconsciously. I assume.
Absolutely. Because how do kids learn, man? They just they see shit and they're like, oh, I'm gonna maybe try that out, and like, if it works for them.
You're talking about the monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
But I think being more conscious about it, like you have been, is much better than trying to stick to values or anything. Do you think you're the kind of person that sticks to one set of like values and ideas?
I feel like I want to be that kind of person, but I feel like I end up jumping around a little bit too much anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe in like 5 years, 10 years, when I'm much more secure in what I'm doing, and I've been doing it for a long ass time, then I can be maybe a bit more set in stone in my ways. But I feel like I just have so much to learn that it's like, why would I want to pick a set of values and live and die by them? Because I don't have the experience to know what works and what doesn't, and what works for some people and why it works for some people. So I want to like I guess stepping back a little bit, I am definitely doing it for myself, because I'm trying to like build myself into this person that can really, I'm trying to build myself into the type of person that has a strict set of morals, but I don't know what they are yet. I don't know what is going to comprise it, because any existing moral framework that you can find, or any existing way of living your life, quote unquote, it's gonna have things that worked for the guy who fucking made it that don't work for you.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of what we do as people will only work for some people?
For
like healthy
sure, for
habits?
sure. And not even like looking at habits, more so looking at like thought processes. Like I got a good handle on it when I was taking my two philosophy classes at the same time during first semester.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see how certain people connected to certain ideas way more than others. And with these really profound uh in like deep topics with so much like so many layers to uncover, you kind of have to have that deep interpersonal connection with the idea in order to make it something that's helpful for you in your life. So when you're going about picking said things to incorporate into your own life, not only do you have to pick and choose on what's like good for you, you have to like you're almost limited by what you can interpret and what you can understand.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
It was just kind of a weird finding that was shoved in my face a little bit down the road in one of my philosophy classes, because I was writing a 6-page paper, and I started it, and I'm like, wow, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just kind of yapping, I'm rambling, like I don't know, I thought that it was just like my understanding with the topic, but I went back and I did a bunch of reading, and I still had no fucking clue what I was talking about. So I had to change my topic.
So you just feel like some people can't grasp or don't have the same emotional connection with certain like philosophical topics or whatever. Is that a word?
Yeah. Philosophical.
Okay. Yeah. I said philosophical.
It's okay. Dude, the English language sucks. I'm taking a medical terminology class. It's like mostly Latin. Dude, Latin sucks way more than English.
But see, with these relationships that people have with psychological and philosophical ideas, do you feel like they're destined to have those ideas, or do you feel like they can change to understand them just through learning?
Destiny is a weird thing. I don't really fuck with the idea conceptually. Just because it like when you boil it down to its core, the idea is that there is some outside thing that's dictating what I'm doing, and that kind of takes agency away from me.
Yeah.
And so if I were to live my life like, oh, well, I'm destined to do something, so like no matter how hard I try, like my path is set in stone. Like that's kind of what destiny is to me. So I definitely think nobody's destined to go down a certain path or hold to a certain set of ideals. And it's actually super interesting because you see a lot of people coming back to college like in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've even seen like an 80-year-old war veteran in one of those philosophy classes.
Yeah.
And it's like it's never too late to switch up and to go and learn something new and to try and improve on the base that you've already built. Because going back to last episode a little bit, it's kind of about contentment. Like the gauge never reaches 100%, but the further along you get, the better it's going to be for your quality of life.
Okay. So you feel like you don't like thinking about the idea that some people just won't ever understand some. I don't know what I mean when I say ideas, because you can learn anything.
You
right?
can learn fucking anything. It's just the rumination with certain ideas requires a longer period of time with some than others. Like some people just don't fucking get it with something, and they'll get it with another thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that they'll never be able to get the thing that they didn't. It's that until they do, they're stuck with what they have.
So what would you call that? The idea? It's not an idea, but it's
I'd call it a moral framework.
a moral bar.
That's just what I'm kind of used to identifying it as through my philosophy classes.
Okay. So did you call it a moral framework in your philosophy classes?
Well, yes. And then I kind of like took the definition and I'm like, this can be applied to like other things aside from because morals in philosophy, it's weird. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really fuck with philosophy anymore. I think it's super interesting, but it's so like in its own head, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A moral framework is essentially just like an idea of what you should and shouldn't be doing at a given time.
Okay.
And so if you kind of like distill that down to an even simpler level, you can kind of apply that to really any idea.
Okay.
So it's less which ideas, yeah, it's more so which ideas fit into that moral framework.
Okay.
So the moral framework is the way that you live your life. The ideas, quote unquote, are what kind of comprises the framework.
Okay,
Like
so
they're what makes it up.
in your philosophy class, with the paper you were writing and the one you had to step away from because you didn't understand it, what was the topic?
So the initial topic, I can't quite remember. I think it was something about. So Socrates had a trial essentially before he died because he was like 70 years old or something like that, and he was just yapping a bit too much, and people got fed the fuck up with it. So they took him to trial, and they're like, yeah, we're like, this is a biased court. Like, we all fucking hate you. We're trying to kill you right now. So essentially, like, here's a stand. So go up and say like your last words. Essentially, like he was like. When I was reading through the piece of literature, like he was defending himself, like as though it were a court, but he was like interweaving like all of these ideas about like why exactly they're killing him and like what his ideas mean and like why like the essentially it was just saying the world isn't ready for the things that I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And I connected so much more with that, with a man who was like just trying to get out essentially like his eulogy, just like the last little bit before we don't ever get to hear anything from him ever again. I read it and I just fucking grappled onto it, and I could like very clearly envision everything about it in my head. But the other one, which I'm pretty sure it was just like explain like some of Socrates' ideas or some like super vague concept or super vague prompt like that. But I just couldn't get into it. I don't even know. Like
the one you chose was the one of
that was his death speech.
You chose his death
Yeah.
speech. You chose his eulogy.
Genuinely can't remember the one that I didn't choose.
So you just when you were trying to find when you were researching the other one that you didn't choose, why did you not choose it? Was it like not clicking in your head, or how did it feel?
It's almost like you keep coming into these roadblocks, and it's like you expect problems in the learning process and the creative process, but it's just I think you'll understand when I say this. You can kind of tell when things aren't going. Whoa.
Oh.
Hello. Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay, there we go.
Hello. Hello. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go. So his mic cut out for a second.
A little bit of cut outage. Essentially, there's a point where you can feel that the learning process isn't how it should be. Like I've got school kind of down to a science. Like not that I'm like really fucking good at learning or anything like that, but I've kind of not even mathed it out. I've just gotten into a rhythm almost with how I learn. And I can tell when the rhythm's off and when an idea isn't connecting as fast as it should. And so I just dropped it and I went, okay, what's something else? And I found it and it clicked, and then boom, 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 like next step, like introduction, next paragraph, conclude. Like it was just, it starts to flow so naturally when you get an idea that you just intuit, like when you intuitively understand something.
Yeah, so it's less of you feel like the topic you're researching isn't working, but it's more of in comparison one might work better.
Yeah, it's kind of like a personal incompatibility with certain topics and a compatibility with other topics.
Yeah. And again, you don't think we're predisposed to that. I don't think we choose that.
So. I don't know. It's kind of like it's everything that comes before that that dictates how well you learn it, of course. Like,
Yeah.
your educational history is going to determine whether you take to, I don't know, science or philosophy or writing or exercise science or whatever the fuck, obviously. And like your worldly experience kind of plays into that. But for me, it kind of almost shows up as just this, do I like it or do I not like it? And if I like quote unquote like it, it just makes the process go so much faster.
Okay. So I'm kind of lost. You I'm trying to think of how to. Every episode, there's a moment where I have to say, I'm trying to think of how to word this, and this is that moment.
English is hard.
But you think there are things that some people learn easier than others,
Yes.
and you don't think that we are predisposed and predetermined to have those.
It's no predisposition. It's just what your life has consisted of before that kind of like points you in a direction. Because if you've done certain things, you're gonna be. It's like following a path. Like you go, yeah. Going further down that path is going to be easier if you've started earlier in life going down that path a little bit.
Yeah, so
but if you went down a different one, it's not going to connect as easy.
Yeah, so it's just learning.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Okay.
It's just learning and the complications that come with it.
So why do you think you weren't able to, not to keep coming on to your stupid philosophy paper, but what was you don't remember what it was about?
I genuinely can't.
Okay. Was there anything in your past that encouraged you or that you think led up to your interest in the eulogy?
Yeah, it was. So I'd been doing a bit more kind of existential thinking just because I'd been taking the philosophy classes and my mind had been on those sorts of topics. And as I read through it, it was just kind of, oh, this is a guy who just, like, he understands he's about to die. He has had a lifetime full of profound thoughts and ideas which have been foundational to philosophical thought, like as it's developed today. And as I started reading, it was just like the one thing that he talked about that was kind of like it just really spoke to me more than anything else and made me like, all right, yes, this is my topic, was when he accepted the fact that everyone in that courtroom was his enemy, and that he just kind of threw aside the fact that he was about to die, and he used it as a platform to say something profound. He wasn't worried about his limited time on Earth. He wasn't worried about being uprooted from his stand and like taken out for an early execution because he said something they didn't like. He just used it as a platform to fucking speak facts.
Okay, so but was there anything that you learned beforehand in your life, like leading up to this moment? Was there anything that you could point to and say, hey, this is why I'm so interested in this?
I think it was just the more existential thinking that I had been doing throughout first semester, because I had been kind of contemplating how exactly I want people to remember me, because I feel like a big part of career and success and that whole kind of spectrum is like the impact that you leave after you're gone. And so it just kind of like really said to me like, oh, even though like this guy was poor as fuck and everyone hated him, but even after all of that, like he still left like these nuggets of wisdom that helped people. And I thought that was not like really cool and just so raw. Like
So back to this thing of desire and wanting to be someone that you're not. Do you see that in? This was Aristotle.
This was Socrates,
Socrates.
and yes, abso-fucking-lutely.
So you look at Socrates and you say, I want to be like Socrates.
In some aspects, yeah.
Not that you want to be Socrates. Okay. So kind of, that ties on perfectly. Your desire to be like Socrates influenced your decision to, I guess that is common sense. I'm overcomplicating it a ton in that just when you're interested in something, you're going to want to put more into it. So
Yeah.
was that most of it?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the extent of it. When you're into something, you're gonna put more oomph into it, and sometimes even if you're super interested in something, just because of how you are raised and the things that you've done so far, you might not take to it as easy.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a problem. It's just kind of a fact of life.
Yeah. That's so much yammering just for me to.
A little bit of yappage.
So
26 minutes, perhaps.
I was so confused, and then I was like, oh, it's just kind of like you learn something and then you know it. Do you feel like you ever want to do something? Do you ever want to be someone despite someone else? Like, do you ever feel like I want to develop this trait because I know they don't like it? I know they're not fond of it.
I feel like the only instances which I've had that have been looking at myself and being like, oh, these habits or this part of myself has led to such a negative outcome that I need to change it.
Well, yeah, okay, but that's something you want. That's something you say, I want this, and then you change it. Or something, I don't like this, so I'm gonna change it.
I've never been like this. Actually, I don't know, because I've definitely had some interactions with people where I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful that I don't talk like them.
Like what?
There's this guy who goes to my gym, and his name is David. And David is pretty nice. He's super socially awkward, though. And he just kind of doesn't get some shit. I'm not sure if he's like a little bit on the spectrum or whatever. I'm not saying that to be mean. He just kind of gives off that vibe. His girlfriend's super nice, and so whenever she's around, I can kind of like stomach talking to them a little bit more. But when it's just David, he'll do the most strange things that just make me want him to leave me the fuck alone. Like, he'll go up and interrupt me while I'm like doing a set or something like that, and he'll wait like he'll see me starting a set and wait for like the 12-15 reps or whatever that I'm doing. And then as I'm sitting there on the other side of the failure set, like gasping for air, like, hello, what's up, David? And he's just like, hey, man. And then he like doesn't fucking talk and makes me lead the entire conversation. And super long-winded way of saying, I'm really glad that I have had the quote-unquote social training that makes me not come across like that to other people. Because the way that he makes me feel, I would not want to make anyone else feel that way. And that's not to say that he's intentionally doing it. It's just a byproduct of who he is and what he's done so far.
Yeah.
And I'm not faulting him on that. I'm just super grateful that I'm not that.
So you're more of grateful for habits that you have as compared to...
Yeah. And when I see things that I'm like, oh, shit, this is why I like those things, and this is why I don't do other things, it just reinforces the habit.
Yeah, okay. That does make sense.
What about yourself? Do you kind of... Are you... Because I try to be non-judgmental because I know how varied people are. But do you think that you kind of like see things and you're like, oh, I really want to stay away from that in other people?
Like habits?
Yeah, in other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest ways is how I talk. I know I can talk a lot. And I've hearing other people talk a lot that I don't have. I don't know how to explain it. Just trying to stay away from sounding douchey and mean, which backfires too, which is another question I want to ask you. Do you but I feel like, okay, sorry, let me restart. I try not to sound douchey or mean, but it backfires because sometimes I apologize too often. And it makes me sound too sheltered and
Yeah,
too comfortable.
It's kind of like the going back and repeating, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. It makes you almost seem like insecure in the fact that you did it.
It's just petty.
Yeah,
and it's more
a little bit.
It's trying to find the fine line between not being a douche but not apologizing too much. But that's the biggest one I notice. And that's what I was going to ask you is, do you ever feel like you try to develop a habit so much to try and make yourself look and appear better, and having it like backfire on you like that?
It's
Mainly within the lines of desiring to be better.
okay. Yes. I think the biggest one was probably looking back at my life. I think the biggest one might have been smoking weed. It was like, all right, I'm a super mega like ultra anxious dude, and when I smoke weed like a little bit like throughout the week, I'm like a much happier person. I'm less anxious. I'm more carefree. I'm more on my shit because I have a lot of trouble like sitting down and shutting the fuck up when I'm sober and like just relaxing. And so I started smoking a bit of weed, but then kind of like later down the line, it just became this coping mechanism where it's like, oh, when things aren't going right, let me just smoke some weed. When I'm feeling socially anxious, let me just smoke some weed. When I'm a little bit too in my head, when I need to get stuff done, and then it just kind of like started compounding, and then it was more and more, and then it was total addiction mindset of like, oh, well, I used it before for this thing, now I can just use it for this thing because it worked so well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably the biggest instance of I did something because I saw it helping me a lot, and then I just took it to the extreme, and nothing is good at the extreme.
So you originally started smoking to chill out?
Yes.
Like you were anxious?
Yeah, super mega anxious. Like, yeah, just like a bunch of like social anxiety and like resting anxiety, like about my life, and like anxiety about family stuff. Like, I don't think I was a very sad kid, but I was a super stressed out and anxious kid.
That's one of the biggest advertisements for weed is chilling you out, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that people go, oh yeah, it like alcohol makes you like happy and like more energetic, and weed makes you chill out. Like that's kind of the thing.
Yeah. So you feel like you just abused it, maybe?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And how do you feel like that's backfired on you? Do you feel like you use it too much as a crutch or what?
I feel like I might use it a little bit as a crutch now, but it's having that experience of like, oh shit, this is what addiction feels like. This is what using something to get away from what I'm dealing with feels like. And that was so invaluable to have that at an early point in my life going forward.
Yeah.
Like, realizing the state that I was in and the fact that I had to change something, it's essentially I learned that lesson pretty young, and I am not mad about that.
The lesson of you didn't need it? The
lesson to not eat, the lesson that who I am in a sober mindset is always going to be okay, and that I'm not going to need these things to chill me out. Like,
okay.
I essentially learning not to rely on a substance, because a lot of people go through that with caffeine initially. Caffeine's a lot fucking harder to stop using than weed, at least as far as clinical data is concerned.
No way.
Just because you have physiological withdrawal with caffeine, like you start itching, like your adrenal system's taxed, and so like there's the brain fog. Not to say that there isn't a physiologic withdrawal with weed, but it's just a lot less severe.
So are you in a good state right now? Like, do you feel like you have a good balance of?
I think it teeters just because college is an interesting time, and like, you know, I'm not too afraid of making bad decisions right now, but I think I'm in a better spot. definitely a way better spot than I was, and I'm in a spot that I am fine with being in.
That's
if that
good.
makes sense.
Yeah, and your lesson will stem from your desire to chill.
Yeah.
And to be. Did you want to be someone that was more chill? Like,
Yes.
Did you like the idea of people seeing you as more chill dude?
Absolutely. I thought I was the high strung nerdy kid loser who like couldn't take a fucking chill pill, and it was definitely exacerbated by the fact that I did homeschooling for a little bit before I came to Teton, which is the middle school and high school that me and Oliver went to together, and so I definitely saw it as like, oh, this is like just an on switch for like being an absolute chilla, because I had never been an absolute chilla.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So that's cool. Thank you for sharing.
Do you think
Very
there's
interesting
anything similar? Not necessarily like substances, but like habits that you've kind of tried to make something good out of, but then you realized kind of in the midst of doing it, like, oh shit, like this is why people say this is bad.
Obviously the talking thing and the apologizing thing. Other than that,
Super open-ended question.
I don't know. Other than that, maybe I need to be more noteful of myself when I'm around people. Do you feel like it's only social habits? Like, do you feel like that's only where it could be applied?
Primarily, although the things that you do in your free time definitely have the things that nobody else sees you doing are definitely still going to have an impact on your mental.
Yeah.
So no, I think that it's not just social.
It's hard to find things that we do just for ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
Like in our mind, we're always. I can't speak for everyone. In my mind, I'm always, how can I make myself appear in better light in front of other people?
Humans are super social creatures. Like
Yeah.
we only really exist because there were like these initial like tribal societies where people worked together and collaborated and were able to like get shit done as a unit instead of like individually. So like by nature we're designed to be working with other people.
Yeah.
Humans are most efficient when working together, for sure.
True.
100%.
And status is a huge part to play in that.
Yeah.
And
Ego too.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of stuff on ego recently, and it's super fascinating how people kind of look at ego like it's this thing that you should stay away from. Like, you don't want to have a big ego. You want to be like non-egoic in your day-to-day life, just because having an ego gets in the way of things, and it makes people see you a certain way. But ego is a tool, just like emotions are. Like, if you think about like when you get sad or something like that, it's like it's your body telling you like, oh, this is something that we don't want to happen again.
Yeah.
So fucking make sure you're not sad again. Our ego is a tool that was developed to kind of like enable social hierarchy, to where we can kind of you keep your ego in check, and your ego keeps you in check. And the fact that like you realize there are certain people that are higher than you, and there are certain people that are lower than you. Hierarchy doesn't really exist without ego, because you have to have a sense of self and where you sit within the hierarchy for it to make sense.
Do you feel like you are separate from your ego? Do you feel like...
I feel like...
Because you were talking about...
On enough psychedelics.
You said your ego plays on you and you play on your ego. And I've never thought about you being a separate like entity.
I think you definitely can be separate from your ego. I think this is where like you get into like the kind of yogic non-dualist mentality of like you, like yourself, like this thing that you've built, and what you are behind the ego. Like they're different, but like they're different, but they're inseparable on a level that makes them seem like the same thing. And 95% of circumstances.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But when you start to kind of dismantle it, when you do that, like, shit, I forget. There's this, like, super famous yogi. Everyone knows him. Nobody knows his fucking name. But he went and sat in a cave for 30 fucking years by himself. And he just thought. And once you start doing that type of shit, once you start, like, really seeing, like, the extent of what your mind kind of holds, then you can kind of delineate between yourself and the ego.
Okay.
But unless you're on, like, a lot of hallucinogenics or, like, a fucking an 80-year-old dude who's been spending his entire life as a yogi, then it's probably, you might not be able to distinguish yourself from your ego.
How do you feel like you do with your ego?
I feel like myself and my ego have a relatively good relationship.
Okay.
I feel like I try to use it as a tool and not to kind of let it anger me or like influence my emotional state.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, it's just like emotions in the sense that, like, I can think of 1,000,001 instances that are positive and that are negative, like, just experiences where my ego played a large part. Like, I've been pissed off that guy is so much more successful than me, and I've been proud of myself that I'm so much more ahead than other people.
Yeah. Do you feel like I've also we keep going through this loop where you said something.
So many big circles.
I feel like I'm like, so, but I also say a lot. I've never thought of it that way, but I've never thought of ego sitting you in between two groups of people, those that are above and those that are below, which is sick. That
like,
is cool.
You have to have a sense of self for other people to be separate from you.
Yeah.
And that's where the non-dualist mentality kind of comes in. We're like, oh, we're all the same person. Like, yeah, it's fucking.
Have you ever seen Evangelion?
I haven't, but I think I know what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah. If you were,
explain it to me.
I don't know if I want to spoil it for you.
That's true, dude. Spoilers are a weird concept.
Spoilers are a weird concept.
It's
I mean, not really.
Well, if you think about it, like, we've talked about it on other episodes, how kind of you experiencing a story through your own lens definitely helps shape it.
Oh yeah.
So
I guess we have.
It's kind of strange how it's like, spoiler, get the fuck away. Like,
yeah.
It's going to be absolutely ruined if you explain it to me in your way and then I go and watch it in my way. Like, what? It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a minor tangent.
But yeah, it does. Evangelion touches on human. I don't know if this is a real thing. Okay, it's just an Evangelion thing. Never mind.
Okay, tell us about human instrumentality.
Dude, it's a big spoiler. It's like the plot of the entire story.
What? Okay. How long is the show?
Evangelion is like 26 episodes and then a movie.
Fuck, I feel like I might end up watching it. Is it good? Is it really good?
It's good. I like it.
I've heard it's pretty good.
Some people don't like it. I love it. I eat Evangelion for breakfast.
Evangelion's pretty good.
Animation is good. It's like it messes with your head.
Dude, I love shows that just make you fucking think.
Watch Evangelion. Super non-committal, super short.
Something that it's mega committal that makes you think a fuck ton. Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
I've been talking about Breaking Bad a decent bit recently with my roommate. I want to rewatch it. I just have such a big watch list, and I'm not watching any of it because watching shit takes time.
Yeah. Do you feel like Breaking Bad has like?
I feel like
Breaking Bad again.
I feel like Breaking Bad might have made me a better person. I'm
really?
Not gonna lie. Yeah.
In what ways? What lessons did you learn from Breaking Bad?
It tells you how your ego can kind of get out of control and how it can start to kind of control you, and this pursuit of being better than other people, how it can kind of be so toxic and detrimental to a life, and it shows how people, in an attempt to just get something, like do something, an attempt to accomplish something, you can get so lost and twisted within it if you forget where you are. It's so profound in that aspect that it just makes me realize, holy shit, even though no matter the intention behind it, what that person did was fucking evil. Like, it made me realize what evil looks like. And I was like, holy fuck.
Breaking Bad does a good job with evil.
Dude.
I think Breaking Bad is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
It's crazy how Walter White is the protagonist and antagonist the entire time.
Oh, it's so good. He's one of the best. I think he's a really good anti-hero.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And it's like...
Actually, no. I feel like in my mind, an anti-hero is somebody that, like, does wrong things for the right reason. Walter White does the wrong things for the wrong reason.
Yeah. Well, have you seen Bad Santa?
I have not. I don't think so.
Do you know the Tekken lore?
A little bit.
I'm trying to think of another one. There's
Tell
so
me about
many
Tekken.
anti-heroes.
Tell me about
There's a lot of
Tekken.
anti-heroes. Well, I guess
Deadpool's kind of one that I like. Like, he's just, like, people kind of memed the fuck out of him because it's like, he's just
Ryan Reynolds.
It's a superhero, but he's like, he doesn't give a shit about killing people. It's like, kind of, but it's more so that, like, he's trying to do good things and he's trying to help people, but he's really just kind of trying to help himself and do right by himself, and he's willing to do a lot of wrong things to kind of accomplish that.
Yeah. Anti-heroes can definitely get lost to being hyper. I don't know how to explain.
There's
it.
a lot of weeds in the anti-hero kind of sector. It's convoluted.
Super romanticized, a lot of violence.
Yeah.
You know, I think there can be a great anti-hero with that one.
For sure.
And I know there's a super good. Oh, I know. There was like a criminal case study on this dude named like Joe. What was his name?
Fucking Joe.
But his name was
Joe.
definitely not Joe, but he's like a crack dealer, and I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm not going to be able to talk about a criminal case study, but I can talk about Tekken. In Tekken, the thing that kicks off the entire Tekken series, you know Kazuya from he's a dude in Smash and stuff. Heihachi, his dad, throws him off a cliff when he's like 5.
That's badass.
And then he's like, if you're truly a Mishima, you will survive and come and fight me. And then he comes and beats the crap out of him, and then he throws his dad off a cliff.
That's kind of sick.
And then he ends up taking the entire empire, and like he has a son, and his son starts a war. But then you realize that he started the war for a good reason. And then there's like a devil gene, and the devil gene messes with their heads, and they turn evil. But I actually don't know what I'm getting at for some reason. Who's the anti-hero?
Is it Heihachi?
No, he's definitely the antagonist. He's the antagonist of the first game, and then the protagonist of the second game, and then for the rest of the games, he's just there.
He's just existed.
Yeah, so I don't think it's him. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm broad taking up. I might be going crazy. Sorry, I wasted like 5 minutes.
It's okay. We don't worry about it.
My bad. I'm trying to think. I had a really good example earlier of a good anti-hero that I was thinking about. I was like, I cannot wait to bring this up to someone. I guess I was just psyching myself out because he's not in Tekken. Oh, whoa.
I feel like Batman could be classified as an anti-hero.
I don't know. I think Batman just does good.
Batman does a lot of good shit, but he the only thing with Batman is that he doesn't have much concern for the law. But I feel like that's not a huge contention. Like,
Yeah.
the things that he does are in the end like objectively good for the people around him.
Yeah.
And objectively good for like the society that he's a part of.
Yeah.
But yeah, anti-heroes are weird. It's anti-heroes are the perfect example of a gray space that just
Yeah.
gets kind of like convoluted, and people are like, oh, so that's this guy? And it's like, well, kind of,
Well,
like
kind
a
of.
little bit. And they're like, okay. And then they kind of get like this wrong idea in their head.
Yeah, there's a big idea of anti-heroes being the protagonist and the good guy of the story that just has some bad attributes. Like, some people might think Spike Spiegel is an anti-hero. He's not. He's definitely the good guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely does good things, but he's just snappy. He's
Yeah.
just witty. He's a cowboy.
Yeah, there are definitely some characters that you look at the things that they do and you're like, there's maybe a little bit of justification to be had, but you did that. Like, what the fuck?
You know, most of the time it has to be like they're not a hero.
Yeah. They're
not the hero.
Usually it's they're trying to accomplish something for themselves, and the byproducts of that are some good shit and some bad shit.
Yeah, like Walter White. Like
A little bit, yeah.
He wants to care for his family.
Yeah, he does.
He has he has really good morals, but he also doesn't because he kills a ton of people.
Yeah. And Walter White's one of my favorite characters ever made because he spends 4 seasons of the 5-season show telling himself and telling everyone around him that he's doing it for his family, that he's trying to create this empire so that he can leave his children with money and his wife with a solid life, and like he's just kind of thrown himself to the wayside in pursuit of this goal. And then by the end of it, he kind of like begins to realize, and then he has this moment with his wife where he's like, after he's already been like found out and he's on the run and shit, he starts talking and she's like, don't you dare say that you did it for us. And he just cuts her off and he's like, I did it for me. And it's so hard.
Dude, that's a bar.
It's so hard because he's like, you can see everything hit him in that moment. All the people that he's killed, all the evil shit that he's done, everyone that he's hurt, every little bad lie, every little thing that has negatively impacted the thing around him. He did it for selfish reasons that were masquerading as, I want to help my family. He wanted to help himself and feel powerful. And that's not a bad thing inherently. But it just shows you how you can get so lost in the pursuit of something.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
That was definitely, oh my gosh, the writing was so good. Especially because there were so many times where I'm like, if I could pull this plot twist off and have the funding to run a series for 5 seasons and then put that in there, it would be gold.
Yeah.
And that's what Breaking Bad is.
Breaking Bad is the epitome of people who are passionate about a project and they just keep it running and they end it when they should.
It's so...
Game of Thrones fucked it up.
Bro.
They were so close and they fucked it up.
I haven't even seen Game of Thrones. Is it good?
I also haven't seen Game of Thrones. I've just watched a lot of
videos on it.
Not even a lot of videos on it. A lot of videos on why people fucking hated the 8th season. Because after I watched Breaking Bad, I was like, oh shit, the 8th season of Game of Thrones is like almost finished. Like, I'm just gonna like start watching that. And then it finished, and everyone's like, fuck this show. Like, it's shit. Like, it ruins the entire rest of everything. And it's like, yeah, they kind of messed it up because they like took these characters and they started having them do things that like maybe weren't characteristic of them. But the rest of the show is such phenomenal writing, like the political intrigue, like it kind of almost speaks Breaking Bad, and that it's a long-running series of people who are passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they did it fucking well for so long. They just kind of fucked up at the end.
Yeah. I know I think it was you I was talking to about, what was the series where, was that a knock on the door?
No, that was my chair.
Oh. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh. I think I was talking to you about a series where It's John Wick.
John Wick.
Or they keep. But I guess it's not the same. That's not.
No,
nearly
they're
the same
making a
as-
John Wick 5, and John Wick died in John Wick 4.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking to you about how Game of Thrones was so good up until the 8th season. Some people might just say, "Oh, I want it to end at the 7th season."
That's
just
exactly what my brother did. When
Really?
I asked him about it, he's like, "Yeah, if you just watched it through to the 7th season, like it's a really good show, and you could probably stop it there, and it's a bit of a cliffhanger, but like you could kind of like have that as the end to the series, and things wouldn't be too bad. Like you've gone through a lot of character arcs, and you've explored a lot of the story. Like it's a good spot to leave it off."
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
No. I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
Something about Game of Thrones and one other show that you just mentioned.
I think I was talking about John Wick.
John Wick, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna come. I don't know if I was gonna say anything.
I think where I thought you were going with that is that they kind of they keep doing more John Wick, and there comes a point where it's like, bro, the series is over. Like, just let it fucking die.
Yeah.
When I think John Wick 5 is a bad idea because they showed him bleeding out on the steps, like, and spoiler alert.
They showed his grave too.
Like John Wick's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like they made it so obvious that John Wick is dead, and now they're making John Wick 5, and I'm just like, bro, it was such a good series. Just let it die like that. Let it like the best possible death you could give it is just letting it fucking die right now.
We were talking. I forget what episode we talked about this, but we talked about if we should we talked about it in this last episode about contentment. If we should let the creators be content with the work, when we were talking so much about how we shouldn't be content.
Yeah,
But
I feel
Keanu and the director, they wanted to make another one. They're not. They don't think it's a cash grab. They think
Really?
it's something they want to do.
Really?
It might be for money.
I-
John Wick 5 will make.
I feel like
crap ton of
John
money.
Wick 5 is mainly for money. I feel like Keanu Reeves is slowing down in his old age. Bless his heart. I fucking love Keanu Reeves. He's an amazing actor. I love The Matrix. I love a fuck ton of the stuff that he's in. But in John Wick 4, you could tell the choreography. It's not like it was lacking or anything. It was just a little bit slower, and he can't really move like he used to.
Yeah.
So I feel like I feel like there's no way that you can write John Wick 5 off as anything but a cash grab. Just because he's getting old. He died in the last movie. Like, things are kind of like, there's no, like, there might be like a thread or two to pull at, but for the most part, like, the picture's complete. Like, they would just kind of be grafting something else onto it. Or at least that's how I see it happening. It hasn't come out yet, so I can't really make any judgments on it.
Yeah. I guess you're right. In that he's older now. How old is he?
Keanu Reeves is old. I think he's, like, getting towards his 60s.
How old is John Wick?
Well, then it might give you John Wick's age and not Keanu Reeves' age.
Oh, not John Wood. Sorry. How old is Keanu Reeves?
Keanu Reeves is 59 years old.
Yeah, Keanu's almost 60.
Gosh, bro.
Which is crazy. Jack Black is in his 60s.
No way.
Yeah.
What
He's,
the heck?
he's doing Kung Fu Panda 4 in his 60s.
Well, I guess it's just voice acting.
Well,
but
yeah,
your voice
but
does change a ton.
It's weird, though. Like, seeing these, like, Jack Black in Kung Fu Panda 1 was, like, a spry... Like, he's
a spry young man.
He's a fucking whippersnapper. Like,
Yeah.
he's a young dude. But, yeah, people get old.
Wait, have you seen Ready or Not? Or no, not Ready or Not. I still know what you did last summer.
I've heard... I almost watched it, and then I think I just got distracted.
I think Jack Black is in that, and he's super young in it. It's crazy. Oh my gosh, people are old.
Joe Rogan did a fuck ton of acting in his, like, youth, apparently.
Really?
I didn't realize that.
I know he was on TV shows. I don't know if it was like
It wasn't
fictional.
like movies and shit, but he did a lot of like sitcoms and
Oh,
like,
really?
like some, yeah,
He was kind of a young star.
a little
I know
bit because
he's popular.
He got into the UFC as an announcer, like when it was like UFC like 5 type shit.
Yeah.
Like it had barely been going,
Yeah.
and he just kind of like he kept talking, and like people are like, oh shit, this guy knows what he's doing, and he just kind of blew the like he never lost steam. Like, you know, like David Lade, for example, I feel like he kind of fell off a little bit. Or not, I feel like he fell off a little bit.
He's burnt out.
Yeah.
He's burning out.
Yeah. And there's some careers where it's just like like the burnout's kind of expected. Like content creation, you'd be hard pressed to find an example of somebody who's like, yes, I love this. I never want to stop doing this ever. I'm so excited. I don't feel any burnout. I don't feel any pressure that I'm stuck in a niche and that I can't move out of it. Like, content creation's fucking hard, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the Joe Rogan brand of content creation is the best and purest form of it, because he's just doing it because he's fun. Like, he likes learning about shit, and so he just talks to people. Yeah. Like, that's the most low energy, not low commitment.
He does like 3 podcasts a day.
No, he's a super productive dude, but it's
does he? Sorry, I might be making that up. Sorry.
Sometimes he does. He goes on like streaks, but it's just that it's Joe Rogan is the brand. It's not that Joe Rogan does this certain thing. It's that he's Joe Rogan. Yeah. And that's kind of like where you eventually want to be. You don't want to be the fitness guy, because then once you stop posting fitness content, you're not making any money.
Do you want to be in a career that you feel like, when we talked about this last episode, do you want to be in a career where you feel like you won't be content with retiring? Like, you'll just want to keep doing it because it will have longevity?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that I want to base my career around the longevity of it. Yeah. I feel like I kind of just want to pick something that like I can stomach, that also makes me a lot of money. And that's its own issue, but we'll get to that on another day. But yeah. Like, I feel like you know the note that I was talking about? Yeah. One of the things that I wrote down is that I want to be on camera. I don't know if that is an objectively true statement, but I wrote it down when I was high as fuck on psychedelics, and I was having like an interpersonal journey with myself, and I was like, I want to be on camera. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I think
I don't know.
I think what I meant by it was that I want to be able to be I want that Joe Rogan-ness where it's like it's not like I am doing this, it's like I am this guy and I happen to be doing this, if that makes sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to be locked down by the things that I'm good at. Yeah. Okay. I want to be the brand.
You don't want to, like you said, you don't want to be stuck in a niche. You want to be the niche. Okay. Sorry. I keep putting words into your mouth.
No, that's exactly what I meant though. Like I'm not trying to be locked into something. Even if it's the most special something ever, yeah, doing it for 60 fucking years is a long time. That's a long time. Yeah. Doing it for 20 years is kind of a long ass time.
Doing anything for any period of time is a long time. That's a lie. Some times are longer than others, obviously.
Nah, man, 5 minutes is pretty long.
5 minutes is pretty long.
Sometimes 5 minutes feels like the longest fucking thing. Have you ever done a plank? That's a long 5 minutes.
Have you heard the joke? It's like, if you need to defuse a bomb, just do a plank, and time will start.
All right. Well, we are at the hour minute. What are you thinking?
I think we're in this episode. I think
we're supposed to be content with this.
Yeah. Like we said last episode, we should be. Sorry, never mind. I gotta stop blabbering.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. This was Concrete Clappas episode 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're trying to do more experimental episodes like this one, where we start off with a more dense topic. And I noticed that we started with, for some reason in our episodes, we like to yabble and then go dense. And in this episode, we put dense at the beginning, and then we yabble
And then
at
we
the
just
end.
started to yap, and yeah.
So for some reason, it seems like within an hour, there's going to be yabble and there's going to be density. And putting it wherever will just leave the other areas to be filled with yabble
Yeah, we've
and
got to
density.
we've got to maybe do a little bit of work structuring it, but
So,
I see a pattern.
Yeah, and it's definitely my fault too for the beginning because I didn't inform Noah.
Nah, this
on
was a disaster. I had no fun making this episode.
on what the subject
Everything was so much worse because you didn't tell me what we were talking about.
Oh yeah, but thank you all for listening. For those of you that are, it's super fun to make a podcast, and especially with Noah. Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Oliver. I wouldn't do this with anyone else.
This has been episode 6 of the Concrete Clappas. Thank you for listening.
Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.
Have a good one.